We'll see what's behind these pretty serious rumors that are circulating about the Wyatt Sicks. We'll also look at R-Truth, John Cena, and other developments. To begin, the Wyatt Sicks and the large, fresh tales and speculations that have been circulating around them. Regarding the Wyatt Sicks, you may somewhat understand their goals and vision. However, the execution has simply never occurred. The 2024 teases for their debut and the actual debut night were flawless. Cannot demand that those actions be carried out any better than they were. However, everything has felt like a nosedive ever since. Following a few dull arguments and an alleged assault to Uncle Howdy, the group was kicked out of television for almost a year before coming back in May, the evening of Bray Wyatt's celestial birthday. Due to the way the Wyatts' first run went, many fans were depressed. However, other supporters held out hope that their second run might improve things. The Wyatt Sicks have largely taken over the SmackDown tag during their second stint. Team division, and none of the other teams in the division know how to prevent them. As a result, the Wyatts were able to win the WWE Tag Team titles, retain at SummerSlam, but in spite of that significant victory, fresh rumors and sources assert that the Wyatt Sicks' collective future doesn't appear to be promising. The group is reportedly set to be dissolved soon, according to certain reports. Now that the Wyatt Sicks are the current tag team, it's difficult to accept those rumors. Team winners at the time of this recording, although the reports still state that they're prepared to disband this group and send everyone off in different directions. Even still, it's difficult to believe those rumors. Nevertheless, it's also rather credible, because it adheres to a pattern that the Triple H-led creative regime is beginning to exhibit. They frequently show off something to the audience, giving the impression that they're devoted to it, just to abruptly abandon it and pretend it never happened. John Cena's heel turn and R-Truth as Ron Killing's character transformation are two examples of that, which we shall discuss in further depth in a moment. They will highlight important aspects, give you the impression that they have a comprehensive plan and direction in mind. However, nothing is actually there, and they then attempt to pretend that nothing occurred. Is it feasible that they will disband the Wyatt Sicks given their history of doing so? Send everyone off in different directions and pretend that the group never happened? Indeed, there's a good chance they can and will do something along those lines. Therefore, when there are rumors that a Wyatt-related breakup is imminent, that is the fact that does give it the appearance of being true. That this regime does have a propensity to suddenly change course and blow things out of proportion. Therefore, despite being the tag team champions, perhaps there is a serious strategy to split them up, particularly considering that the organization still lacks direction. Despite becoming the tag team division champions, even though they are the current champs, they still seem to be inexperienced. There are these backstage promotions for the group that don't really amount to anything. There isn't any true substance to such promos, they are just talking to talk. Therefore, even though the group has 6 months off from television to organize and strategize, it is beginning to provide the impression that the current administration is unable to arrange the Wyatt Sicks in a compelling manner. When they first got back, Uncle Howdy explained that this was more than just an homage behaved toward Bray Wyatt, and how they intended to forge their own route. Everything sounded fantastic in May, but it still appears to be the group is merely a tribute act with no true substance behind it. Because the Wyatt Sicks have felt so empty after these 2 runs. That's what gives the impression that a split is imminent. After more than 2 decades, if this dictatorship simply gave up and abandoned a John Cena heel turn, they will undoubtedly abandon the Wyatt Sicks without much hesitation. And what happens to the members if the group does disband? Well, it's reasonable to presume that most, in the shuffle, the old Wyatt Sicks members will be completely forgotten. Primarily Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, and Erick Rowan. It's difficult to imagine those 3 receiving TV time once the group split up. However, the 2 people who do have a strong Uncle Howdy and Nikki Cross have the best chance of surviving the split. Despite having trouble getting on television just before the Wyatt Sicks were formed, Nikki is a former women's world champion, so she has already reached the pinnacle of her career as a single star. Therefore, you must offer Nikki Cross a good opportunity if the group does split up, of getting back on her feet and moving up the roster's rankings. An analogous concept for Uncle Howdy. Once more, a lot depends on the reservation. Howdy appears to be the one who stands to gain the most from the split. Howdy would no longer have to deal with 4 other people for attention and airtime. He will be by himself, and perhaps he may experience some intense Rumors and disputes centered on the singles division's mid-card. Uncle Howdy's one and only singles match was more than a year ago. So it would get Howdy if the group broke up. More regularly participating in singles activities. Perhaps Howdy will end up in a same situation. On the card that Bray Wyatt was following the dissolution of the Wyatt family. Perhaps instead of the ambiguous and meaningless advertisements, Howdy might having in-depth advertisements that target the person with whom he is at odds. Additionally, supporters have suggested that Uncle Howdy might use the singles run as a heel. Furthermore, it's intriguing that Howdy appears to have the capacity to serve as a fantastic adversary for some of the roster's babyfaces to battle. It is regrettable that the Wyatts never gain much traction if this is all there is to it. Additionally, several members' careers would be in a true limbo following a breakup. However, there is something that must be discussed and appears to indicate that the group is unable to. The Universal Studios scare maze for the Wyatt Sicks is scheduled to close soon. WWE will have a scary maze with a Wyatt Sicks theme in the September through early November is when Universal Parks is open. Therefore, if WWE breaks, the marketing would be terrible. Watching the gang on TV during the Wyatt Sicks scare labyrinth, that would undoubtedly be uncomfortable. Therefore, it makes sense to at least keep the group together. Their name will be displayed on this fright maze for the duration of it. There are undoubtedly a lot of perplexing reports on the Wyatt Sicks there. Should they try again, in your opinion, or is it time to fire the entire group? Let's resume our conversations with fans now. Have been considering in relation to some of the most recent creative choices. Storylines inside the feuds and personalities are common in professional wrestling. That has been the case since the beginning. Additionally, occasionally you presume that when something occurs on WWE television, they have a whole narrative and concept that are attached to something that is displayed to the audience. However, lately, that hasn't been the case. It seems like they've shown us something recently that seems to have everything. Everyone is thrilled by the tale and the world's possibilities, but as it turns out, they never had anything significant planned, and then simply reveal whatever it was that they were anticipating. R-Truth is the best recent example. The arena at Money in the Bank was rocked by the man's return. He makes an impassioned advertisement about being taken seriously. On live TV, he cropped his hair and adopted the Ron Killings persona. Fans are all thrilled about this new path for him, yet it ends in nothing. Additionally, on the August 8th SmackDown episode, R-Truth faced off against John Cena and claimed that if Cena is returning to his true personality, R-Truth will follow suit. Therefore, while it's wonderful to see Cena and R-Truth returning to their former identities, the writing seems sloppy and insulting to the reader. Give the impression that R-Truth is getting a completely new, serious presentation, and that is immediately reversed. Thus, it's undoubtedly a trend that's becoming more prevalent. And that's simply something to keep in mind. Avoid being overly invested or thrilled about anything that is presented on WWE television because it's likely to be promptly wiped and reverted, and they'll pretend it never happened. Similar to John Cena's heel turn, R-Truth's character transformation. Thus, ideally, there will be more consistent storytelling in the future. However, what do you think of the stories from today? Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications enabled and leave a comment below. And if you liked it, drop a like. I appreciate you everyone watching.